I'm Eugenie Anderson, and I do floral design. And as you can see, I'm standing in my overgrown garden. And since this is the season where we're kind of in between different blooms, we're going to see what we can do with the weeds and whatever else is blooming. So I'm just going to scrounge around the garden, and maybe a little bit in my neighbor's garden too, where I have some cutting privileges, and just see what I can gather up and what I can turn it into. This is called butterfly weed, and this seeded itself in my garden and grew, and then I kept spreading it, and it's fabulous, bright color. I love it. So we'll stick some in. I have no idea what I'm going to do with any of this, so we'll find out. This is an echinacea, very popular. It does really well in Washington. Sometimes when here, I'm going to show you this. You can see that the petals are past, but if you pick them off, you can use these fabulous orange centers. So I'm going to do something with that. These ones too. Okay, let's see. I don't want to totally denude my garden because there's not a whole lot left blooming at this point. Okay, let's get a couple of these echinacea centers. There we go. There's another one. This is daylily. As you can see, I haven't deadheaded it in a while. And it only lasts a day. So to use it in a flower arrangement, you can use it at home, but you can't use it commercially because you have to replace it every day. So the trick is, if you are going to use it at home, what you end up doing is you get yourself a piece that has a bud on it, and this will die off, and then this will open, and you have to keep replacing it. So I may or may not use that, depending on. I mean, I'll do this for my own pleasure, but not if I'm making it for somebody else. Okay, what else? This is called Russian sage. It looks a lot like lavender. People get that mixed up a lot, but it has a really terrific smell. It's a form of sage. And this goes all through the summer. It's really terrific. And this can be used for filler. So I'll grab up a little bit of that just to see what happens. Oh, and it smells just amazing. The lavender is mostly past now, but the sage keeps going through the summer. This showed up one summer. Actually, this showed up last summer and then popped up again this year. And it's a form of amaranth, which I think is actually, I think it might actually be edible. I'm not sure, but it has this wonderful fuchsia colored flower, and I may just go ahead and rob it. I mean, it's just in an odd spot right now. I was going to transplant it, but I may just go ahead and use it for our purposes. Why not? Here goes. Okay, here goes. We'll see what that could be used for. What else is around? Tomatoes, but I don't think we want those. Let's see, what can I use? Getting some crazy color combinations here. Let's see. This is a form of sedum. It's not quite in bloom yet, but it has a wonderful texture to it. So even not in bloom, it's fun to use. So maybe I'll go ahead and cut some of that too. I'll give ourselves a big fat one. So you can see against, it really gives a contrast in texture. There's the amaranth again. That one's really dramatic. Let's see what else we can find. Will survive as a cut green, but we're gonna try just for fun. A lot of times I just experiment just to see what I can get. So actually the greens are every bit as important, if not more important, than the actual flowers, because the greens actually form not only the foundation to put the flowers in, but sets the design, sets the line of the design. So you have to have good greens. Okay, I don't know if we can use this or not, but it'd be fun to experiment with. It's just weeds. And if not, nothing else, I can wear it, right?
Right, you look great in that.
Excellent. There we go. Yeah, sort of like, yeah, I kind of like this, right? I'm the green lady.
Green lady of Mount Rainier.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, here's a nice, I love this stuff. This is called yellow Burberry, and it has prickles, so you have to be careful, but it really gives a wonderful contrast because it's that sort of chartreusey green. It's not quite yellow, not quite green. And I love these in-between colors. So that, and you can see it really picks up. Without being a real yellow, it just brightens up an arrangement. Oh, wow, look at this against the purple. Woo-wee! Oh, well, maybe I'll get brave and maybe I'll just go ahead and clip this off then. Wow, I might come back for that. Ouch, 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 has thorns. Okay, that's a start. It's called an obedience plant, but I might use it just use it green right now just to give height. We'll see. All right, overgrown garden, here we come. Out of control. Let's see what's here. Okay, here's something cool. All righty, this has possibilities. This is an iris, but this is the seed pod of the iris. I don't know, we'll see what kind of shape it's in. But potentially strip away the leaf and potentially get some really beautiful line happening. And that could be turned into something. All right, what else? Okay, this is caladium. And that's just a really beautiful leaf. This comes in all different kinds of colors. This just happens to be what I have. Okay, let's get a little bit of that. Maybe get 3 of these. 1, 2. Maybe 1, 2. Okay, now this, I'm getting caught up. I mean, obviously this is way more than I would use for one arrangement. But this is called hosta, and hosta comes in many, many different sizes and coloration, this one here. But we had a hailstorm earlier in the season that just totally destroyed the poor hosta. So I can't use very much of it at this point because it's, well, for my purposes I can, but not if I were selling it. But a lot of it got shredded up. But this one I particularly love because it's a kind of a blue, gray-blue color, and it just makes a beautiful foundation. So I'll get a little bit of that. See, this is hosta. It's all different sizes. So the other thing is I do miniatures, and so it's wonderful to have miniature size of everything. See, this could be used in a miniature. Any of these little leaves could be. And the thing that's fun about the miniatures is then you can really use the weeds. I mean, you just come across all kinds of stuff, buttercups, who knows what all, anything. This is a little cedar seedling. You could use a little bit of that. You could use, this is violet that grows everywhere. You could use those leaves. I mean, really, you can really get inventive, whatever you find. Okay, let's see, what else? I may grab one more, maybe do one more silver green of the hosta. I try not to cut too much from any one bush, and I usually try to do it in such a way it doesn't show too much. So maybe down here. All right, let's get the stuff off of it. All right, now I have 3 of each of those. That's enough to do something with. And what else? This is another form of hosta. Again, totally different color, but it is really beat up from the hail. You can see how the hail just shredded it up. Really a mess. Oh well. Let's see, what else? that's probably enough to get going. I might get, all right, one last thing. I don't know if I'll use it or not, but back here is some hydrangea. And it's in bloom right now. But this has gone a little bit past, it's white at its, when it's young, and then it turns to this sort of light chartreuse green. And it's really beautiful. So I'm gonna go get a little bit of that, and then let's see what we can do with any of this. Okay. Oh, here's some more hosta. I love this hosta. This is one of my favorites. This is a really pretty one too. And I like to get them in different sizes too, because you want to use them in different spots. Okay. There's one. Oh. There's another. A little contrast. All right. Whoop. Oh, this is a beautiful dahlia. This is its first time it's bloomed. But since it's the only bloom I have, I think I'm leaving it in the garden. All right, this is the hydrangea that's turned green. And it might be useful for something. Let's try it. In fact, ooh, there's a big one. All right, after this short break, we will come back and see what we can do with all of this.
Hey, do you know what's in your food?
Huh?
Well, there are remnants of pesticides, also carcinogens, which can cause cancer. Organic gardening does not use synthetic fertilizers or pesticides, which means healthier food for you, and it's a sustainable food system for the environment. Take control of what you eat. For more information, visit nevoearth.org.
Okay, here we go. All right. This is actually a project I'm working on right now. It's a dried wreath for a neighbor here in Mount Rainier, and it's underway. So I'm going to clear that aside for now, and we'll work with the fresh materials today. Wonderful green shawl, and I'm going to plunk it in some water and see if it survives. Okay, we'll see what happens. Into the water it goes. I have no idea what's going to happen to this, but we'll find out. All right, we're going to let that soak. Which brings up an important point, which is materials have to soak up water, and that's called hardening the material. So when you, especially when you fresh cut something, you have to plug it in water and let it drink up as much water as possible. Now, florists often put a chemical in the water to preserve the life of the flower. I don't like to use it because it's not very good for the environment. So I try to cut my materials fresh and let them soak up enough water and try to avoid using the chemicals. So anyway, let's put this aside and we'll get our other materials in water. Oh, they already are in water. Okay, never mind, I already put them in water. Very good. Now, ideally, you would let them soak for a little while before you start working with them. But I think for our purposes, we're just going to go ahead and turn them into something. But even if you buy flowers from the florist, you should recut the stems, and ideally you cut them on an angle. Let me see. Oh, I can just take this. This is fine. You cut it on an angle, and the reason being that you strip the lower leaves off and you cut it on an angle, and the idea is that you want to increase the surface area so that it will drink up as much water as possible. So you always do that to your materials when you bring them in either from the garden or from a florist, and then plunk them in water and let them really drink in the water. This is a Japanese style container. Well, I think I may take it apart and start it all over again, but in any event. And the Japanese specialize in what's called a line arrangement. So the emphasis is not on a ton of material, but on the lines that you create with material. And you can do arrangements with like 3 flowers and still have it be just really, really lovely. Now, there are really formal schools of Japanese. It's called ikebana. I don't happen to know the actual rules of it, so I just experiment and do my own version of it. So in this case, this is just, okay, so this is a daylily that's beginning to die. I'm going to deconstruct this. All right, so this is the daylily that's beginning to die. All right, this is a seed pod I found when I was out in the fields in Virginia one weekend. And I collected a bunch of them because they're really cool. And in fact, I'm using them in that wreath that I just showed you. This is the amaranth again, taking it apart. These are 3 kinds of hostas. And as you can see, that's how I started the arrangement, because it creates a line. And then when you take those apart, at the bottom you get what's called, well, we call it a pin. I guess it goes by different names. And that is one form of holder. So for example, if I was putting this back together again, then I would, let's see, do something like put it in, and usually secure it like here, something like that. Would that be interesting? Yeah, it's kind of fun. Okay, so now you can see that I'm getting a line. See, there's the triad there. And it may not even need much more than that, just something big for focus. I would take these leaves off because they're competing too much with that one. Let's try that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to extend the line out. Now, I could use those for something else. Again, like in another arrangement, could use those in a miniature. Yeah, maybe look at it like that. Okay, so this, you stick it in, and then you stick it in straight, ouch, and then you bend it down a little bit. Like this, if you like. Maybe this isn't enough contrast. So either we would go subtle or something bright, like that. Not sure. Let's try for this, just for fun. Okay, so now the orange would be our focal point. And the focal point is where your eye goes to. And that probably, for that kind of arrangement, would be more than enough. Japanese might not even use that much. The only other thing I might think about doing is having a line that comes up that breaks, that's pretty rigid. I might try to do something that pulls your eye back that way a little bit, but that may be overkill. Because one thing about any form of design is you have to know when to stop. When's enough. But maybe. It's worth a try. Ooh, or maybe this. Let's try this. Maybe. Or maybe not. Or potentially that. Okay, we're going to try a couple possibilities. Okay, so if we did that, what's nice about that is it picks up the orange again. And that might be good. This throws in another color, and maybe that's too much. That's too much. Okay, let's do this. Okay, we'll throw the echinacea back in. Okay, leave a little bit of the leaves. All right, now it's going to be too tall, I think. So the idea is I want to fill in this space just a little bit. So I'm going to cut it a bit shorter. And that's probably about right. Oop. See, it still has its leaves on it, its petals. Then when these dry out, which they will eventually, the center of the echinacea, they get dark. I think I have one. Here it is. Here's one that's completely dried out. And then this can be painted, for instance, gold, and used at Christmas time, in arrangements at Christmas time. I have all kinds of crazy stuff that I collect. You know, I'll show you. Sticks. This is, you know, for instance, if I were starting all over again, I might think about using that instead of this one. Something, you know, if I was gonna, I want something tall to bring the line up, and I might have used that instead, the curly. And if this doesn't hold up, which it might not, I might replace it with something like this. But for now, let's just leave it just like that. I'm adding another piece just for yucks, because I like it. That's why. I've done a lot of work here in Mount Rainier. I've done galas for Joe's Movement Emporium, and I did some of the opening arrangements for Bird Kitchen, and who else? Lots of wreaths at Christmas time. A lot of the wreaths around town are mine. Just lots of different events, and so I'm available if anybody's interested. And oh, the other thing I do is I do also at holidays. I have done a lot of different arrangements for everybody in the communities around here, including miniatures, which are little tiny guys in shot glasses. So that's a fun thing, a little different than most commercial florists. So if you want to get in contact with me, my email is andersoneugenie@yahoo.com. It's my name backwards. I'm Eugenie Anderson, floral designer. Work up here.